Good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock and we're going to get started with the cross-check for fiscal staff demonstration and teaching. This is geared towards fiscal staff to help with EMIS reporting. I see that we have quite a few EMIS coordinators on there. I hope that we've got some fiscal staff as well, because this can help both of you. So we'll go ahead and get started. On the agenda, we've got a couple things listed that we're going to go over here. I'm going to try to explain in much depth as I can. What is Crosscheck? So it's an EMIS application used by districts that verifies data. It verifies that data to find potential issues and to simplify the process of analyzing all of that data that we all send to EMIS. Crosscheck takes the most recent prepare or submission from EMIS data, from student information to the data collector, and runs a series of checks on that data to find potential errors. Access to the application is restricted to authorized district personnel and ITC personnel, and someone in your district should have those administrative roles to add to folks that need access in Crosscheck. Just a little bit about, I'm sorry, one moment, please. We're having a little technical difficulty.
Are you sharing slide?
Yep. Thank you. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay. So that's the page we're at. This is where we are. So just a little bit about this. I'm gonna take it all the way back elementary style here. EMIS is where you report all of your data and information to the state of Ohio. And USPS is what the fiscal departments mainly use to put in information for staff. And when we report staff to EMIS, we take the data from student information and put it with USPS. And then that goes together, and Crosscheck will look for errors by crossing that data together and trying to find inconsistencies that may be incorrect and errors that need corrected, which will affect your report card and funding and things like that for your district. The USPS to EMIS crosswalk information. There is some information in the upcoming slides that will help you understand where data is coming from and how it changes titles when reported in EMIS. By going through the next series of slides, you should be able to grasp what Crosscheck is looking at and where to troubleshoot the information that you're seeing. So for my fiscal staff, if you're looking at USPS and you're entering information for an employee, these are the open slots that you're going to enter that information in and the titles of those areas. When we take this information from USPS and convert it into the file that we can report to ODE or ODU, sorry, those titles then become these titles, which is where I think a lot of issues happen, because you're looking at something in USPS and you're talking to your EMIS coordinator and they're saying it's your, I don't know, absence days. That's long-term illness. And it does say long-term illness here, but like here, ECE qualifications, early childhood education qualification. They are somewhat the same, but the titles are a little bit different, which may kind of throw you for a loop when you're entering data and trying to correct issues. This also, when we go from USPS and take this information to EMIS, changes what it is called. So in USPS, this is called the EMIS employee entry screen. And when you go into EMIS, it is changed to the CI record. So when you're talking to your EMIS personnel, they're going to reference it as CI. So if you're in fiscal, you'll now know that this is where they mean the data needs corrected. USPS info for the EMIS conversion, this is a CK record. So this would be the USPS EMIS entry position screen, and it is changed to the EMIS CK record. And again, some of the titles are similar, some of them are a little bit different. But knowing and having and seeing this in front of you, fiscal staff and the EMIS coordinator can work together to find the information needed to correct those errors that Crosscheck find. Other records that are included in EMIS data from USPS are the summer or staff summer employment separation record, which is the CL record in EMIS, staff missing override, which is the CP, contractor staff, which is CJ, and the contractor only staff record, which is a CC record. These are not as common as the CI and CK. So most times when you have an error, you're going to find that in the CI and CK. Some important fields to consider. The employee general info is reportable to EMIS. The position is contains EMIS related data as well and is reportable to EMIS, and so is compensation. So if the employee is marked as reportable to EMIS, all of this information is going to go over to ODU. They will be included in the submission and will collect the CI information. The positions and compensations, the CK record, are collected separately. So if the position compensation is marked as not reportable, then it will not be included in the collection to EMIS. And it will cause the EMIS coordinator to see errors. How to navigate Crosscheck. So once we get into Crosscheck here, you're going to see that there is this lovely little blue box up here. And this is all of your user functions. Of course, the house would be the home page. Let's say that you want to share this data with someone, but you don't really want them to see some things. You can click this blur feature, and Crosscheck will blur out some information and data that they may not need to see. You can download data from Crosscheck that you're seeing. You can put that into an Excel form and put it on your computer and manipulate it in any way you see fit to help. And then there is a help area that you can read about some of the checks that Crosscheck does. And then there's the exit or logout. Navigating the dashboards. When you look at reports, you will see yellow caution signs. These cautions, I'm sorry. It's a different page in my presentation. I apologize. I changed that, not in my book. Navigating the dashboard, when off to the right, you're going to see these three icons. Yellow icon is to see more information. So that is actually going to explain to you what the check is that you're currently looking at and how they got the information that you're looking at. The green printer icon, of course, is to print, and the blue export button is to put that into the CVS if you wanted to look at your data in another way. Now we're at the yellow caution sign and green check marks. When you look at the reports, you will see these signs. These caution signs are telling the user that a check was ran on the data submitted and a possible error was found. When you review the error and correct it, you, the user, then can click on the yellow caution sign and it will turn green, showing that the error has been corrected. Or the error has been checked and cannot be corrected. This is all user driven. So let's say your EMIS coordinator goes in and they are checking the reports and they do come across something that you are reporting it is coming up an error, but there's nothing you can do to correct it. You can then mark that green because every single time you log into Crosscheck, it's going to show that error. So if you change it to green, and you can also put a little note in there, well, now you know, hey, I've already looked into this, it can't be corrected, and that's okay. So the Crosscheck dashboards, this is kind of where everything starts. These dashboards show you a bunch of information. They have sections that have blue title bars, and that would be for the entire district. And then there's sections that have a green, and that would be building specific. Enrollment data is pulled from the enrollment report to the data collector. And then staff data is generated from the CI and CK record files that we just discussed. And as of date is shown in the top right corner of the dashboard to indicate when the data was last collected. So you'll know if this is current data that you're looking at, or if this is something old that was reported and maybe you need to update and report new data. So here we're in the dashboard, and there are two dashboards that would be beneficial for fiscal staff. Those are the district and building and the staff dashboards. This is a picture of the district and building dashboard. As you can see, the district information is in blue, like I did mention earlier, and then the green are the buildings that they dive down a little bit further. At the top, you will notice I do have my blur feature on that we discussed earlier, and it blurs out my name by the welcome and by the district here. That's blurred out. This is blurred out. So you don't know what district I'm in, and you don't know who has pulled that data. Please note that as you can see, the blurred data will not blur out the district in other areas. So this area here, it only blurs certain specific areas when you're in there. So if there's something that you do not want people to see, you will have to black that out on your own. You will want to be cautious of this when you do share data with others. On the sidebar, you will also notice not only the dashboards, but the check reports that are completed on the data that was reported. Each of these subtitles have reports within them. So here are our dashboards. These are the two that are going to help fiscal staff. And if you come down here, these are all the reports and checks that Crosscheck runs. And if this was the live, we would click on the little arrow here and it's going to show all kinds of reports, but you'll see that later in the presentation. Here's a look at the staff dashboard. It's similar. Of course, this is only district specific. It does not break it down by building. And now we'll dive into some checks and reports that Crosscheck does. So here's where that little caret is that you can click on, and this will open up the report that Crosscheck has created from your data coming together from USPS and student information. And as you can see, there are some red circles here. These are the errors that are under those reports. So staff experience, they've got 2 errors at this district. Long-term absences, they've got 49. So those would need to be looked at and checked on to make sure that if they are true errors and they can be corrected, that you can do that, or if they will stay that way. So the FTE salary mismatch check, that was one of those ones that was on that drop down that we just looked at. It looks at the position entry screen, which again is that CK record. If a staff member has a full-time equivalency, FTE, greater than 0, but has 0 reported for their salary, or the staff member has an FTE of 0 with a salary greater than 0, it will appear on this check. You can't have one without the other. If you're working, you're going to get a salary. If you have a salary, you should be working. This data impacts average salary data and cost per pupil data on the local report card. So you will need to look at this record for the staff member, and some questions that you should ask yourself while checking these staff members would be, are they checkmarked to report to EMIS? Should they be? Are they currently being paid? If yes, they need to have a salary entered. Are they currently working? If yes, then they need an FTE. Should they have a separation code for the position record? Did they leave the district? Did they change positions and need a new record within the district? And was the old record updated correctly? Long-term absence checks. So a long-term absence has to be 15 or more consecutive days, in a row. As you can see, the last staff member has 38.5 absence days. However, the staff member does not have any long-term absent days entered. This could be due to a couple reasons. The staff member did not miss 15 consecutive days in a row. They just missed 38 throughout the year. fiscal staff has not entered the long-term absences yet, or this was an oversight and the long-term absent days need entered into the CI record for USPS, which that CI record is that EMIS employee entry screen. So there's some things that EMIS and fiscal staff need to discuss when you see these checks on whether or not long-term absences have been entered, because I know most districts wait until the end of the year. If you need information on how long-term illness is reported, you can look at the EMIS manual 3.3. And I've kind of highlighted this square. This has most of the information that you may need. It talks about the long-term illness and how it is reported in EMIS. I'm not going to read through that, but I wanted to make sure that you had it available. Missing staff degree check. So this check goes out and checks any staff member with a position code of 200 to 299 range, and those are the teacher codes. Position codes 108 or 109, which are principals, and they are being reported with zero in their education level. A 0 translates to non-degree for educational level. Well, you have to have a degree to be a teacher, so that is not correct. This data is used for the district's local report card and should be verified for accuracy. So if you've got a staff member showing up here with a staff missing degree, you better look into it and see what needs to be entered, because it will affect your report card. Separated staff with active status check. All right. This check looks at the CK position entry screen records where the position status is reported as active with a C, an I, and an A, with a separation date that is prior to the current fiscal year. These records should not be reported after the fiscal year in which the staff member left or changed position. So here I broke it down as to what the C, the A, and the I are. This check also looks for staff members who appear to have separated over the summer, but are still being reported with a position status other than U. A staff member who worked 0 days in the current fiscal year should be reported with a status of U. In this check, Crosscheck is showing you any separations from 8/1 or earlier. And this is a big thing that EMIS coordinators do tend to have to talk to fiscal staff about. Those position statuses really affect a lot of stuff and will error out if they're not correct. Staff experience check. This looks at position codes that are a 212, a 230, a 104, a 108. Sorry, I got off track here. If an employee has a 212 or a 230 position code in last year's CK record, then the check looks at this year's CI record to verify that the authorized teacher experience has been incremented by 1. I know districts tend to do this at a certain time of year. Some of them are beginning, and they'll update. Some of them are at the end. If an employee has a 104 or a 108 position code in last year's CK record, then the checks looks at this year's CI record to verify that the principal experience has been incremented as well. The report shows if the staff has a separation reason and the separation date. There could be staff members displaying on this check whose experience is correct and not incremented because the staff member did not work sufficient amount of days to have an incremented experience. Those records can be checked and marked reviewed because you can't fix them. So this was a big one a couple of years ago. The staff teaching a course but does not have a 230 position code. A staff member who has a 212 position code is considered a special ed teacher. They cannot be teacher of record of any course that your EMIS coordinator is reporting to ODU. They must have a 230 to be able to have a course listed to them as the teacher of record. One way that districts can do that is that you will split the teacher's FTE. You'll have 2 records in USPS. One record, the staff member will have a 230. Excuse me, 230 position code for the percent of time that they would be teaching. So you would have to take that 1 FTE and split it between 2 records in USPS. One would be labeled with a position code of 230. And that would show that the teacher of record is teaching part of the day. And then the 212 would be when they are working as their special ed license. And then you would have the rest of the FTE listed on the 212. I know this was a little hard to work out a couple of years ago, but I think everybody has gotten their head wrapped around it. You should not, however, be reporting a teacher that has a 212 as a teacher of record. You can read these situations or read about this in the EMIS manual 4.1 course records or 4.2 course master record for further guidance. EMIS manual links. This is all the links to any of the EMIS manuals that I mentioned. You can just click on it and it will take you straight there. Sorry about that. And that is really all I had for today. Do we have any questions or comments that we need to discuss?
Did you provide the link for Crosscheck? Or could you show them where you go to get into Crosscheck? Like, is it on the OME-RESA homepage?
So,
Okay. Yeah, second. We'll hover over screen right. Right.
right here's Crosscheck in OME-RESA. If you go to support, help, and links on our website, you can just hover there. You don't need to click it. Crosscheck is right down here under student services and EMIS. And go ahead and log in.
Is there log in their AD account?
It's
Is it their
Their directory?
yes,
Okay.
I believe so. Yes.
Angela wants to know, is there a deadline for fixing or changing data in Fiscal since the collection is closed?
Well, last year's data is closed and the appeals, I believe, is closed as well. What's the date today?
Today's 14. It closed last Wednesday, the 6th.
Yes, so we should be working on this year's current data.
Right, so
Okay.
for anything that last year is incorrect, there's no fixing it.
There's nothing you can do at this point. Unfortunately, yes.
I did have a question from a district who wanted to find out. They had 2 employees that in fiscal year 25, they became principals. It was their first years in a principal position.
Okay.
In the initial collection, they reported those new positions and their old positions.
Okay.
Okay, but they, the fiscal year 25 compensation records for the principal's position was archived prior to the final collection being done by this district.
Okay.
So the only positions that were showed reportable were the old positions from fiscal year 24. One had a separation date and reason, the other one didn't. So they took down those principals' position. So when they did their final submission, the principal's jobs weren't on it.
Okay.
So they found this because they went to something on ODU where you can look at your principal detailed records, and only one principal was listed and the other 2 weren't. And that's what we found was the issue. In the final submission, they weren't in there for their principal jobs. So my question is, I know there was a lead up there. Would Crosscheck have caught that you reported a position in the initial?
It should have caught
If they used
that
Crosscheck.
there was, well, even looking at normal level 2 reports, which for people that aren't in the EMIS world, level 2 reports are reports that we get in the data collector after we report data.
Uh-huh.
And ODU looks at it and they will send reports with errors. I feel like that should have been a missing staff since they never reported a staff record for that principal.
Right, they
For the whole
did the
year.
first initial, but not the final, but they had, their 2 old positions were still being reported from fiscal year 24.
In 25?
Yeah. Because I think what happened was, they might not have been made aware, or, no, wait, I don't know the reason why. They, maybe they didn't turn them off the year before because they didn't know they were gonna become principals in enough time.
So they
I
were
don't know.
reported as teachers for the fiscal year 25? Because you're saying their
Yes,
records were
they were
still-
reported as teachers and for the initial collection principals, both positions. And then for the final, only teachers.
That should have been missing staff.
And
I
it
think
wasn't.
it wasn't.
And it wasn't, because I looked at their missing staff and these 2 people were not on it. So they wanted me to ask that question, if Crosscheck would have caught that.
Hmm.
Good question, huh?
Yeah. I would have to look into that. That's kind of a different scenario.
Yeah, that's kind of a strange one, I thought.
It is because I don't know how you can report one record at the beginning of staff, but then that record just disappears for final and they never got a missing.
Never got anything.
Did they report it to EMIS? Like, was it checked report to EMIS for the principal?
Well, the problem was, from what I can tell, the compensation record was archived before the final submission was done, so it wasn't reported. And I'm thinking that it should have, because the position was
in the
reported.
initial.
Yeah.
There's 2 staff collections. There's an
Right.
initial and a final. So if these records were reported in the initial the correct way,
Mhm.
then archived, but not reported in the final, they should have come up as a
And they
missing
did.
staff.
So.
And you know 100% that they were reported in the initial to EMIS. Like, they can have a record in
I went
there.
back and I looked at that submission and I looked at all the employees and the positions that were reported, because it tells me the position
Yeah.
number. And position number 1 was not reported in the final. They were like 3 and 4 for the other jobs. But the compensations were archived too soon. So, because we usually give a checklist that we tell them after it closes, you do need to archive the fiscal year 25.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
years. They jumped the gun on it. So I don't know if they got the dates mixed up. I don't know what happened. I just know it happened.
I would have to look into that a little
Okay.
further. I don't know.
We'll talk
That's
after the
because that
meeting about
should have
it.
come up
I
as
would have
missing.
thought.
And Crosscheck will throw, if staff member is missing, that is an error that will come up in Crosscheck, correct?
That is more of a level 2 than it would be, I think, in here. That should have been red flag from the data collector before it even got to here.
I'll show you when we're done
Okay.
with this, so, yeah. Okay. So, and one other question I have that I've noticed, someone left at the end of fiscal year 25, they left the district. But now you're doing your final for fiscal year 26, because I said 25, right?
Mhm.
How do you report it? It's been more than 1 year since they left. Do you still do the
That's where
year?
that U comes into play. If they reported at all during that year,
Yeah, they just
that
keep reporting
record, they
all
have to
through
report the whole
as a
year.
you. There's no override needed? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I didn't know.
Or
if there
they're
was a time
still
limit.
reporting that U
Yeah.
for the whole year,
Yep.
because you can't get rid of it. Again, hence why your prior question doesn't make any sense, because if they got rid of that record,
Yeah,
it would have, it should, in theory, show up
yeah,
as a
because it was
missing
on
staff member.
initial.
Right.
Okay, so that's what, okay, those were my two questions, sorry.
No, you're fine.
I just
Anybody
wanted-
else have any questions?
Come on,
So
Yeah.
when, fiscal, oh, go ahead.
wait, Kim, there's a couple,
That are just.
Kim, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have a scenario I just want to run past you. So we had our assistant principal at our middle school was the initial position she was going to do for this coming school year was a halftime assistant principal at the middle school and a halftime assistant principal at the intermediate. So, you know, we have to do get out salary notices by July 1st. So when Tracy had gone in there, she used that position of assistant principal to create a new contract for fiscal year 26 from that middle school one, changed her FTE to a half, created another position to do the other half for the intermediate assistant principal for fiscal year 26. But then when Tammy did her last collection, it only showed a half for the principal.
You changed it too soon.
But
changed
I
it
thought
to-
everything was supposed to be date driven. So when we put a start date of that new contract as 8/1 and the last collection was done in July, why would that have picked that up?
The position, you changed the existing assistant principal in the middle school to a 0.5. It was existing. So you just changed it. It's the compensations that are, more driven by date because of which compensation am I bringing in to match this position. Now, and it didn't pull in the other position because it was brand new. So that's why you changed that position too soon to 0.5.
So to get the salary notice, how do you do it? What's your suggestion?
Well, the salary notice, I don't know if you've added extra fields to your salary notice, but the salary notices print out, okay, your compensation for assistant principal at the middle school is X amount of dollars. But I don't know what else you have on your salary notice. I don't know if you have a paper period amount. And then the second one would have printed out for the second compensation record for that information, salary information. That's based on the compensation record. That's not based on the position itself. It's the compensation record, the contract.
But when you create a new contract, don't you have to point it to a position?
Well, the compensation, the compensation you created is pointed towards a position, but the salary notice is based on the compensation record because those change from year to year. So, you know what I mean? The position, if it's like say my position, that hasn't changed in the 8 years I've been here, but my compensation has. So my compensation for my salary notices it has the new compensation amount.
And
It's based on the dates, like when I go to run them. Because I do it from new contract.
So she could have created a half and a half on compensation, created a new position for the intermediate, but shouldn't have changed the middle school one to half until later?
Until after last Wednesday, the 6th.
Yep.
Because that was the closing date for the final staff course collection. And then she would have changed it to half. Because now when you change it to 2026 reporting, it will pick up that second position. So the two positions together equal 1 FTE.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, kind of, but we're trying to, you try to work ahead and try to remember everything you have to do to get new contracts and everything set up for the new school year, but then you gotta worry about
Right. I
EMIS
understand that.
reporting from the prior year, but you're trying to move forward to the new year. So it
Right.
gets confusing.
It does. And then maybe that would be a good idea if you're a paper person, a notebook or a Excel spreadsheet, like once the period closes, I need to go into these employees and change maybe the IRN, the FTE, anything in there.
Oh, Tim's question makes me ask another one. Like she said, the person is going from full-time in the middle school to part-time
Uh-huh.
and part-time in the intermediate school. So if you set that intermediate up as a 1, when you get to 26 and you do the initial collection and it sees that this is a 1, that your 25 is still a whole is a 1, will it allow you to have
2 FTEs of 1?
right?
No.
Even though and so that would, in your initial collection, that would throw an error. So in her,
Remind us.
We'll have over 1
it would
FTE.
have- right. So then in Kim's situation, if you don't remember to go back and change that initial collection in 26 is gonna throw the error and you're gonna be told, hey, this is a problem. So it is your catch if you don't,
Yeah.
if you're not a
Right.
network, if you're not a pencil and paper kind of person.
Correct.
That's an idea.
Okay.
That's an
Because I
idea.
had the same kind of scenario with someone else. Like, I was wondering.
But set up that position correctly with 0.5. If the other one's still
Right.
at 0.1, at 26, it's over 1 FTE and it will throw the error. Oh, I've got to change that one.
Yeah.
So that makes
So
sense.
that would help.
That's an idea,
That's-
Kim.
Okay.
So I went into the application so you could actually kind of see a little bit. I have some of the information blurred, so I hope that it's, not overly possible to see who it is.
Okay.
So up here, if you can see that, that's the dates that I was discussing. Student data as of 7/14/2025, and then the staff data was as of 7/30/2025. So this was updated on those dates, which was when, it was open, the fiscal year 25, because we have not rolled over in Crosscheck yet to 26. But here's your staff dashboard. We're showing race, ethnicity, staff position summaries. So you've got, administrative assistant assignments. You can quickly look and see, hey, I've got 1 with a total of 1 FTE. So it's a full-time employee. Assistant principals, this district has a head count of 3 and a total of 4 FTEs. So this is all information that you can look at and see if it adds up, if it's correct, or if you need to, look into it further and dive down into some of those checks that it has.
So that would have been an error on the 104, right? Because you have 3 people, but 4 FTEs.
Correct.
So should it have a number? Something there to flag that that's an error?
Well, this is just a summary.
Oh, that's
They're in
just
the
a summary.
district
Okay.
dashboard. So
Okay.
this is just summarizing all of the information.
Got it.
Now, did you say you could click on like the yellow eye to get more information? Like, where would I go to get like a list of these people?
So again, like here's the eye. This
Yeah.
explains to you exactly
Oh,
what it pulled. And then if you want to export this data that you're seeing right here, you can go to this little file folder and then you download it
All the details.
and you can pull it into Excel.
But that's just the summary.
No.
It will,
It's a detail report.
yeah, it will give you all the information that is.
Including names?
So we'll see, it has all that information and yeah.
Can't see that.
So, it will pull names, it will pull what their position codes are, all that kind of stuff that you need to look at. That was in the staff dashboard. Here's your district and building. Remember, the blue is district, green is building. And you can go through and get quick numbers for whatever was reported on 7/14, 7/30. So that's how you'll know if this is up-to-date data or old data. And then when you scroll down here, these are the ones that are the checks. This is actually the cross-check checks. dashboards is just a summary of your data. These are the actual check. So let's go into staff and course. And then again, here's all of your staff and course information. FTE salary mismatch. So that's that one I was discussing, that you have a one full-time, you've got a one for full-time equivalency, but no salary. You've got zero. Well, something's not right. Long-term absences. Maybe they haven't entered them yet. Missing staff degree. These are all the checks that I was showing you in the presentation. Separated staff with an active status. So that's gonna look and see, hey, there's people that left, but they're still active. So that's where the CI and the CK come in, and one could be active, one could not be active.
And again, the red in number circles mean there's errors and the green means they're okay.
Red means there's potential errors.
Potential.
Green means they've looked at them and they've either corrected them or they cannot be corrected.
Okay.
So I mean, I can go into,
I don't want you to show.
I did blur out names. So if I go into this staff members missing education level. So here we do have the building diagram, but anyway, educational 11, non-degree. Okay, well, if they're a non-degree employee, then that's fine. They don't have a degree. So the 0 is appropriate. Whereas if they are, if you've got a 230 position code with 0 in your degree, there's a problem. Like something needs to be entered. But those are, that's all the checks. That's what they look like. You can go in and, like I said, check them, mark them, make a note. There's an area where you can make notes on what you did to correct it, or can't correct it, and it stays that way.
And so you do this prior to doing a submission in the data.
No, do this after your submission.
Okay.
Because it has to take that submission data.
Okay.
And cross-check it and put it in the application.
Gotcha.
Any other questions?
Anybody else have any questions?
No?
So who would be the best person if I start going through this, or I have somebody, we're going to start using this, because I know we did actually put through an appeal. We're working through that right now for last year's stuff. Is that, Melissa, is that, coming to F staff to ask questions, or is that EMIS, or who can help?
So that's all gonna play on what the error is. Most of these staff checks will be in USPS, which would be your fiscal staff.
Okay.
Which is why I kind of added those records, so that if your fiscal staff does need help, they can kind of talk to the EMIS coordinator, and the EMIS coordinator can say, this is the field that is erring out, and you can then look at that conversion and say, oh, I know right where that is. I can fix that in USPS, and then your EMIS coordinator will need to run the data check or the data collection again.
Okay. Because I'm looking at mine, and I've got I had 2 on my separated staff with active status. So when I go into that and see the 2 people, they're two active employees. So I'm not even sure where to go to. Oh, it says position code 899. Where did I find? So if I'm just not sure where to look,
So the EMIS coordinator can kind of help with that. If you want to look in some of those links that I put at the end of the presentation, one of the links, I believe, was position codes.
Okay.
And then, you see that 899. Well, I don't know what that is. You can click on that link there, and it will take you to the portion of the EMIS manual where all the position codes are and what they mean.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
And Samantha,
Yeah.
the EMIS coordinators all have access to this,
Yes,
correct?
correct.
So they are very familiar
Most
with.
likely they're your administrator for the application,
Got
most
it.
likely.
Got it.
Mhm.
And so they are very familiar with it, and if, and the treasurers, if a treasurer needs access, that EMIS coordinator can grant them that
Correct.
access, correct?
Yes, there should be someone in the district that can give access, and most likely that will be the EMIS coordinator.
Okay.
Anybody else? I got finished really early. Thought this would take us an hour, but yeah.
It does appear to be a very straightforward program. Um,
Just remember, if you do get confused on what check you're looking at, that I will tell you everything you need to know on what you're looking at during that check. That could even help you probably troubleshoot where you need to fix it. Because it tells you exactly where it's looking, what it's looking at, and what it's doing.
It's so much easier
And this
than
will
the data
clean-
collector.
This will, it may not there may not be an error in the data collector, but there may still be something that's not 100% accurate in your data, and this may catch it.
Right, this is just a little bit deeper dive into the data that you're submitting, that does the checks, so the EMIS coordinator doesn't have to per se,
Right.
because they are bombarded with
And that's, a-
gargantuan amounts of data.
and
So,
that's a lot of checking.
yeah,
Every
so
employee, every
Crosscheck
student, yeah.
is a very nice tool for EMIS coordinators because it helps them to troubleshoot things much easier.
And it does this for the student side as well.
It does, yep, special ed, we've got grad checks, calendar checks, and assessment. So-
I just wanted our fiscal people to totally understand what this program does
Yes.
and how it can help them. Even though their data collector submission may look clean, there could be more things they could clean up that would make their data more accurate.
Yes.
Right.
So even, I mean, generally fiscal staff, like I said, is going to be in the staff and course. But if you think of this as a whole, coming full circle, the calendar plays into parts of staff because if you're reporting PD and you're reporting snow days, all of that goes into the FTEs of not only staff, but students. It all plays together. So your EMIS coordinator, those calendars, that's a very important part for them. The courses, there's a lot of times, an EMIS coordinator will get errors on a course because there's a teacher of record that is a special ed teacher and they cannot be, if they have that position code of 212, that's a no-no. You've got to have a 230 to be a teacher of record. So that's something that they may come to you and say, hey, this course isn't right, and it essentially doesn't look like it's a fiscal error because it's a course and fiscal, you may be like, well, that's not my area. Well, it kind of is because they all connect together at some point in time. So if it's throwing an error that person can't be the teacher of record, fiscal and EMIS have to work together to try to figure out what's going on. And Crosscheck is a good resource to do that.
One thing I do want to say, because I was looking at our list and we have a couple of new people in the treasurer's office who are attending. And you referred to them as EMIS entry position, EMIS entry. It's just employee, it's not something new. It's just your regular employee position and compensation records. There is a section that EMIS coordinators have access to that say EMIS entry. So for the new people, I don't want them looking for that EMIS entry employee. It's just your regular employee position and compensation.
And that, of course, is where sometimes there's a disconnect, because in my world, that's how I refer to it. when
Right.
I'm in the EMIS realm. So, and it's generally even shorter than that. It's the CI and the CK record. So, and when I go to my fiscal, I'm gonna think that they're gonna know what is a CI and what is a CK, and some of them don't, because that's not what it's called.
No,
in their
that's not
world.
what it's called. And Lori had a good idea that maybe we'll put an enhancement request in to see if when you do your drop downs, it might say employee and in parentheses put CI. you know, from the drop down menus, and it has like CI, CK, CK to help those newer people. I mean, even some
Navigate a little
people,
bit.
even us, sometimes you get busy and it's like, okay, okay,
Right.
you know, to get it straight. I used to have a note by my computer.
Yeah.
I mean, I have it now,
Oh, I
but
totally understand that.
you know, so, because you don't deal with this every day like you do payroll.
Right.
So I just wanted them to know, I'm not trying to insult anybody. I just want to make
Not at all.
sure that we're all on the same page.
And us
So-
EMIS folks don't like when we walk into Fiscal and they're like, oh, the EMIS people. What do we
We
do
have a
now?
force field around ours.
And so we're trying to help with that, so everybody can discuss it in a manner that everybody understands. So, yeah, thank you.
Well, if there's no other
I
questions,
have one other thing, because Lori will not talk, okay?
This is on a roll.
Well, Lori said this, she won't say it, and I have a big mouth, and everybody knows that anyway. On the position screen, in the EMIS information section, there are fields for contract amounts, number of days in the contract type information.
Okay.
Those are override fields. Do not enter anything in there because it overrides the compensation record. And if you forget to clear these fields, you will be reporting the same salary year after year after year. You will not be showing the new salaries. So we always tell people, do not use them unless you absolutely have to. It's part of our checklist to clear these fields, but some people miss this. You get interrupted, you're in the middle of a checklist or for whatever
Sure.
reason, and you miss it and you're reporting the same salary year after year.
and
So,
cross-check can't.
and cross-check,
Yeah.
Cross-check can't.
yeah, cross-check can't pick that up for you.
Mm-mm.
So, we just want to make that clear to people as well. There are times you do use it, don't get me wrong, but
Mhm.
it's a rare occasion when you use that. So,
Okay.
okay, Kim, what you got for me?
You know me too. I got the big mouth, right?
That's why we get along.
Okay, so off topic, but Tracy's going to be leaving us for a different job, so we're going to be training a newbie again.
Okay.
So I'm somewhat familiar with this. If we would need to schedule a lab, like to go over this type of stuff, like personal stuff, you know, related to our district, are we able to do that with you guys?
Yeah, I mean, are you talking the EMIS information for your employees or just period? I mean, new payroll person.
Well, new payroll person, or like looking at this cross-check, the error reports and figuring out, like, you know, walking us kind of through, like, let's go to this screen and look at this or do this. If we would ever need to set something like that up, are you guys open to that?
Yeah, I don't see why if you need to come down and help.
we will do individual labs for anyone who has new employees or if somebody wants to go over something. We are always open to do that. As
Okay.
far as like the EMIS information, especially if it's going to trickle in with student information, I would want to coordinate that with the student department to make sure we would have someone available. In case
Okay.
we trickled into that world and we didn't have all the full information.
And the
Right.
EMIS coordinator at your district could be a good resource too. If it's someone that has been there for a while and has used Crosscheck, they may be able to help you as well. Not that I won't help, because I will, do whatever is needed.
But
Well,
they know
it's-
your district
It's
best.
seeing it on cross-check though, and then knowing like where to exactly like I think I found this one error. So I see on the position screen in the EMIS related field information, there's a separation date, but the job status is still showing active. There's no stop date up top. So I'm assuming that's why she's showing up on the cross-check as an error.
So you have a separation date, but you have an active record.
Yes.
So that needs
So
to be
what should
Yeah.
that be? That's the things, like I'm not familiar with that.
What is the separation date?
6/30/23.
That's what I was trying to ask you when it's late like that. So she would have to report them now
So,
with
yeah,
you.
You'll have to change that position code to you and report that for the
for the fiscal year 26. And then
Whole year.
once 26 is over, get rid of it.
Okay, so then that's where you have to write down this person, what, and so you remember to go back and change it next year.
Yeah,
Right.
at the end of 26, you would then have to remember to go and uncheck reportable to EMIS
After the final
Right.
reporting.
after the final reporting.
And you have to make sure you keep the last compensation record also flagged as reportable to EMIS, because it needs to be a set. It needs to be employee position compensation.
For that specific, what,
Person, yeah. So you said that the last day they worked was 6/30/2023.
well, that's what it's there under EMIS related information as a separation date.
Right. So if it's the 23, then the compensation record for fiscal year 23 needs to be kept flagged as reportable to EMIS, because it needs I always say it's a complete set. You need an employee position and compensation record.
But I'm sure that one. Yeah, see that's where I'm gonna, I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, I might have some follow-up questions.
Okay, no problem.
Anybody else have any questions? If not, I just really want to thank Samantha. She is in our student department, and she did the presentation for us today, and I really, really appreciate her doing that for us and her knowledge. And if you have questions, please let us know. And if we can't give you the answers, we will contact our student department and they will educate us even further.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Thanks,
I hope everybody
everyone.
has a good day.